that, like the Spanish Inquisition, you don't always expect to show up, and that is Alexander Bublik, who has won the Montpellier ATP 250, just stepping up a rung on the tour. Comes from a set down in every match that he played in the draw to win. Yes, Damien, Bublik has done it again.
Yeah, that was the first in history, right? That was the first in history to win an ATP Tour title, coming back from a set down in all his matches. Obviously, the one against Shapovalov is like the most sort of eye-catching result because he saves 3 match points in the second set in that crazy tiebreak. But yeah, overall, I mean, he played with insane determination. You know, he was willing to grind it out. These courts aren't too fast either. Of course, he's won it before. He's won that event, so it's not like he can't handle himself. But yeah, I mean, he just was really willing to dig deep. I'm not in one of these. I'm not like one of these players who are now people who are now going to be like, okay, so Bublik will break the top 10 very soon. I think while we are seeing his very motivated version, like we are still seeing some limits to what he can do for sure. And part of that is actually this week. I mean, he wasn't dominating his opposition, you know. However, it's definitely good to see him like this. I think all in all, despite his, let's say, character flaws, I think tennis is definitely much better with Bublik in it, and Bublik, you know, motivated, Bublik focused, because he is a very entertaining package as a whole, both, you know, personality and game. And yeah, I mean, to win 3 ATP Tour titles, especially since June, I mean, because I think overall he now has 4. It's absolutely massive, and he's actually since June, since the grass season, only Sinner, Djokovic, Manarino, and Bublik have won at least 3 ATP Tour titles, which is a pretty crazy group. You know, Alcaraz hasn't done it, Rublev hasn't done it, and someone like Alexander Bublik actually has. And of course, he also started his sort of career with like a 0-4 finals record or something like that until he got his first title. So it's actually a big change as well. But yeah, overall, just the fact that he was so willing to grind and also like was really good on the defense in many occasions. He was like luring Chorich to the net. Very, very different, really. Matthew with a funny comment there, but very different from the Bublik that we usually know.
I think it means something. I think there is something to be said for, like, I say this often, but going to the net, shaking hands as the winner, and then like that added element of winning and holding a trophy. I feel like that means something in a player's career, and it's not lost on me that as he lifts his 4th title, he gets to his highest career ranking, which is 23. So I wouldn't go all out on a limb, and I kind of agree with you, Damien. Like, I don't think top 10 is in his immediate future. I think some of the areas of improvement in his game definitely showed this week, but at the same time, he was the person lifting the trophy at the end of the week. So I could see a top 15 crack for him this year, especially if he finds his form on the grass this year. It's just that I don't think it's ever going to be anywhere close to a week in, week out type of performance that I would expect from somebody that's going to get in the top 10, or at least something more consistent. Consistent isn't the name of the game when it comes to Bublik. So we'll see.
Yeah, Tebaha grass, he's got like very much, like a lot to lose, very little to gain, it seems. I mean, Wimbledon was at the forefront against Rublev, and then also, of course, the Halle title. So, like, for me, the biggest thing will be whether he can actually start producing results in like ATP thousands on hard courts, right? Like, that's something he hasn't really pulled off. I guess that's probably the biggest, actually, like in his resume right now, both slams and the ATP 1000 level, I guess, that they're sort of like, lacking. I mean, no slam quarterfinals, of course, only that one second week at Wimbledon. And I think at the ATP 1000 level, he has like 1 or 2 quarterfinals. But yeah, these are the sort of areas where he's lacking for sure. And right now it could be tougher for him, maybe even because we have all these bigger draws, right? So you need to win more matches to get somewhere. But yeah, if he can start earning points in these events, that would be pretty huge.
I think 4 or 5. Sorry, Nick, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just going to quickly say, I think he won 4 matches to win this title. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. I actually think 4 or 5 matches in a row is kind of where he caps out. I can't see him putting together 7 without one huge like just Bublik performance, you know?
I mean,
And I'm
here
wondering
even the
whether-
first set against Chapo, right? I mean,
Yeah.
he went 1-6 down. I mean, he saves 3 match points, or 3 or even more. I think it was 3, right? Never mind, 3 or 4. I think it was 3.
It was a few, yeah. I mean, look, there's a few things to unpack there. I mean, I'm wondering with these draws whether, we're talking about Bublik at sort of 1,000 and major level, whether either he struggles a little bit against sort of like the actual top 10 players, that elite tier, or whether he struggles a little bit more when things really matter and he has to focus. Whereas here at these levels, he can kind of play around a bit, he can relax and he can play his game and enjoy it. That's just a theory. I'm not a psychologist, so he can call me out for talking out of somewhere.
It makes sense to me, Nick. A friend of mine just said, a friend of mine that actually coaches tennis at like a high school level finds that a lot of the players that are super successful at that level are the ones that don't have all of their stock in tennis. They're kind of just like athletic kids, and they can have fun with the sport because it's a game at the end of the day. And I feel like Bublik has a little bit of that in him. Like it's this 250 to 500 level allows him to kind of literally just play on the court, and he's good. He's probably his best when he's just playing and having fun, and sometimes it comes off a little bit unprofessional, or like he lacks real care in what he's doing. But you know, at the end of the day, we like to add different layers to it. But tennis is really just a game, and it seems like he thrives in taking off the pressure, which would make sense as to why he doesn't play his best in really high pressure situations, because it becomes probably too much for him.
But by the way, just to mention what Nick was talking about, like the top 10, he has an 8-20 record against. In the slams, it's 1-4, but I guess it's not a big sample. But yeah, also I think that Wimbledon actually, for the reasons that you said, that Wimbledon run was pretty big, because everyone was looking at him as like one of the potential contenders after Halle, and he delivered. Like if you're losing in the fourth round to Rublev in 5. That was absolutely like delivering on that. So I think that was already a big step for him. The fact that after winning the title and sort of being on everyone's minds, he actually also performed well. Of course, you know, Australian Open, for example, was horrible, but it was horrible for him. But well, it happens.
It's
if anyone could be immune to the Halle curse, it was Bublik.
He's a special character, that's for sure.
Have you and Kyrgios ever
Halle
played?
curse. Oh, okay. That explains so much, because I understand. I mean, you don't even want to know what I understood, but Halle curse. It makes sense.
Clearly, I've said something very inappropriate in another language.
Not really. It was actually in English, but yeah,
okay,
sure.
never mind.
I think
Moving
someone will
on.
probably get
Moving
it in
on.
the chat. You know?
We'll
I got it.
move it on. Yeah. Have Bublik and Kyrgios ever played each other?
I think they have.
Explosive.
I think they have.
Yeah. Also explosive was that first round match Bublik against Shapovalov, which is the match where, as you said, Damien, Bublik saved match points, and it was really pretty much decided by that second set tiebreak. Any positives for Shapovalov from that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think he was playing pretty well. He did lose a lot of momentum after that second set tiebreak, which is understandable. But yeah, he did push Bublik, especially in that second set when Bublik started playing. He did keep pushing him. So it was still a good week. I think Chapo is playing Gaston again now, so it's gonna be pretty fun. But yeah, I also checked, and this is the only match between Kyrgios and Bublik so far. But yeah, he's gonna play Gaston again, so he should feel very comfortable in the matchup as well. Again, round 1, and he crashed him last week, so that was definitely so much better than the first Chapo showings in Hong Kong and the Australian Open.
I don't feel too much different about him just because he beat Hugo Gaston in the first round of Montpellier. Not yet. He needs to really do some just flat out some more winning for me to kind of feel like, oh, this is a confidently striding Shapovalov. Not quite yet, but a win is a win. So I'll give him that.
Is Borna Coric starting to confidently stride again? Because that final run's put him back in the top 30, which he I didn't realize he dropped out of, but I lost track of him for a bit because he wasn't really doing a lot last year.
I don't think it's a stride, but I do think it's a brisk walk.
Yeah, last year he was like all about like some random runs, somehow in very fast conditions, usually like Madrid, the altitude clay, and etc. And that was kind of surprising, but I guess it's the post-injury Chorich with that improved serve, you know. But yeah, it's back-to-back finals as well, because he made that final in Otinielu-Volnanev the week before in the Challenger. He loses to Leandro Ridi there. He was actually struggling physically a little bit, but I think especially in that Belgium run, he showed a lot of like grit, determination. You know, he is such an awesome competitor. Even when he was down and out on a few occasions, especially I think Kamil Majchrzak in the second round was outplaying him, but even Felipe Meigeni Alves for a while, he was really able to just start producing and sort of keep himself in the match with good serving as well. And then he goes to Montpellier and actually wins all his matches somewhat like easier, you know. So I think it was a good example of using the Challenger Tour as like a springboard to get more match rhythm, and then actually succeeding. He almost pulled off the Ibing Wu around this time last year, because around this time last year Ibing Wu lost in the Cleveland final and then won Dallas. So lost in the final of the Challenger and then won an ATP 250. Chorich almost does it. But yeah, as a whole, of course, yeah, absolutely. I mean, he got his game back, he got the match rhythm back. So that was a very good couple of weeks. And as I said, there's a very good example of using a lower quality, if you may, event to get into shape and then actually hit back on the bigger stage as well.
Yeah, big. Yeah, I think. Yeah, let's see how he does. I mean, Chorich we know has a player with a pretty decent upside, but maybe not necessarily the highest ceiling out there level wise. But obviously has some good wins under his belt. Has a 1,000 title. Can't argue with that kind of CV, really.
Yeah,
So
it has kind of changed, I think, post injury. Like with the way he was able to improve his serve, and in that Cincinnati run, suddenly hit through his forehand. Like he actually is a bit more up and down now, but at the same time, yeah, his peaks have been higher, and he managed to get that ATP 1000 title, which probably like a few years ago. Well, he did reach that final in Shanghai, but it was of course a pretty straightforward loss against Novak in that one. But
I do see what you're saying, Damien. Like I do see a difference in his game. It's if you watch hard enough, it's definitely noticeable that he's playing more aggressive, and sometimes with aggression, like you said, you miss more. And I don't think that was something that he was used to in his game. But I think based off of his high level, although it's not top 5 ceiling, I think it is top 15, top 20 ceiling for sure. And because of that, I actually want to see him win more, so he can kind of get out of that ranking where he's not seated at the big event, because maybe that's a selfish reason, because I don't want my best players or my favorite players to meet him in the first round.
My favorite players aren't seated, so I don't mind.
Your favorite players are no longer playing, Damien.
That's true. That's true.
Someone else who might not be playing for a while, Holger Rune, had to withdraw from his semi-final against Chorich with an arm injury. I don't know anything more specific than that. Hadn't looked convincing that week. This week. I don't think. Up to that point, and so maybe the injury was a factor in that. But yeah, where is Holger Rune at the minute? Because he's kind of stalling.
I can tell you where he is. He's preparing for that. What is it called? That Slam King 6 or King 6 Slam that was just announced with Djokovic, Rafa, Carlos, Medvedev, and Yannick Sinner. So maybe he's preparing himself for that.
I have no idea what that is.
Yeah,
somebody mentioned it in the comments, so I guess only me and Matthew are privy. But it's exhibition event or something coming later on in the season, probably after the U.S. Open. But it was just announced today, so maybe that's what his mind was thinking about that.
Like the Saudi Arabia thing.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay. I saw it on Twitter. I just didn't read the name. Yeah.
Hopefully it's a factual thing. Hopefully somebody didn't just spend all their energy and
No,
made
no.
a
There's definitely something in Saudi Arabia.
okay,
I don't
got
know
it.
who plays it, but there's. I mean, Nadal for sure because he's an ambassador for them essentially. So,
When is
but
When is this event?
Post US Open
oh,
later in
you
the
can
season.
see on the screen
Is it?
October.
What does that say? Yeah, October.
October.
Yeah, October.
Yeah. So, I mean, so it doesn't matter really then. But
It's
yeah.
a good
Speaking of
poster.
Rune, sure.
It is. I think well, except like the naming of it would be perfect if Holger had actually won a slam by now. But maybe he does it in 2023. I mean, losing
2024.
2024. Yes. Wow.
Who
I'm
do
in
we have
February.
really who could have stepped up for him here though? Maybe they wanted to do 5 kings, or maybe 6 kings is actually based on something in Saudi Arabia. Like
Yeah,
we
I'm
don't know.
imagining. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
maybe it's
another
not the
Grand Slam
culture.
champion. Yeah, just dig Stan Wawrinka out. Andy Murray is also a good option there. Maybe.
Yeah.
But he wouldn't be competitive. But anyway,
Not with Stan.
let's not get into that. Let's not get into that. Anyway, Holger Rune, you were.
I did not say that. If anybody clips this, I did not say that. I got a lot of heat for asking a question in Andy Murray's comments the other day about his level, and I did not say that.
I saw that. That was like people actually kind of misinterpreted it a lot, like what you said. That was weird. It wasn't like the Tomljanovic thing, where I actually think there was some fault in on your side as well. Whereas here, I was like, okay, but like he just wants to know where Andy thinks his ceiling is right now, and like what his best performance could be, and it's a fair question. Anyway, maybe it's because of your other your other tweets that people assume things. But
Yeah,
anyway, let's talk
they
about
assume and
Holger.
misinterpret. But Holger Rune, yeah, Holger Rune.
Yeah. Honestly, I just remember saying before this event, or maybe like after the Australian Open, it would be amazing if Holger Rune in like March, May, April is back where he was last year. Like that's literally where he wants to be right now, which is a bit sad, I guess, because it would mean that he didn't do any progress. But actually, right now he's actually worse than he was last year, probably. Of course, last year there was also an injury concern in February. He, I think, had an elbow issue against Gies Brouwer in Rotterdam. People don't really remember, and honestly, I didn't really remember before checking it, that his Indian Wells in Miami kind of sucked. Like, I didn't actively remember that he did something there. I was just like, where did he even reach? Like he wasn't great, right? But then the European clay season, he hits it so hard with the 2 clay ATP 1000 finals. And I just want to see that, I want to see him get back to that level, and then we can actually start talking about him going forwards. Whereas right now, yeah, just feels like everything that's happened since, it's been him going downhill a little bit, at least, of course, with some brighter moments, the ATP finals, Paris. But yeah, I just want to see him make an ATP 1000 final on clay again or something like that. Just so that we have Rune in the same spot where he was last year. And currently, he's not really there. And of course, an injury issue is not amazing, and we'll see. Specifically, of course, for any player, an injury issue is horrible. But for him specifically right now, it is really hurtful if it is something serious.
Those points in Monte Carlo and Rome are going to be here before you know it.
They really are. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we talked about, I guess it doesn't hurt him in the sense that he may not lose big points from this injury, but he's missing the opportunity to gain big points. And, everyone's talking about him as like the leading of the chasing pack for the top 4 at the minute. But he's what 7, 8 in the world right now. Sorry, what was that?
He could be 25th, and he would be in the top 10 of my power rankings. I don't really care.
Oh, really? Really, Damien? Wow,
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Why not?
Well,
I mean,
I do see him like in this part of the season, like Indian or like this mini indoor swing post Australia, and then going into Indian Wells and Miami. In theory, I feel like this should be a good setup for Holger Rune, but an injury potentially. The arm looked fine when he gave a handshake to Bonator. It's not that a handshake is indicative of an injury issue all the time, but it didn't look super serious. Like I didn't leave that retirement announcement in the match looking at it like, oh, this is going to be something that lingers. Hopefully it isn't. He also put out a tweet that says health first. So maybe he's just thinking about wanting to have good runs in the next couple of tournaments because there's opportunities there. So I don't know. I think I'm still on the Holger Rune train, I guess. Just maybe in the back, but still on the train.
I'm still in the front, I'm still doing the choo-choo and adding coal to the furnace.
I'll catch the Rune train at the next station. I was very impressed with him with those 2 Djokovic wins, but his game style is not for me, and I was much more like.
What is his game style? Like, what is his game style? It's a serious question.
Yeah, I don't know.
He doesn't know it. He doesn't know it himself, and like he still hasn't found that identity or whatever. And I'm not saying you always have to have like a very strict player identity, but it kind of helps, knowing what you should do on the court. And he doesn't have it yet. I mean, he literally has not progressed a bit even since, I don't know, let's say last year this time. And it's a bit of a shame, but I mean, the talent is still there. And when he was, let's say, this age, a lot of people were writing Sinner off as well. I mean, I do think in a couple of years he should probably get to, well, I don't know if a Grand Slam champion, but just being back in contention for the big stuff.
I remember at Australia, like people were putting Rune ahead of Sinner in their power rankings, and I thought they were insane.
This year's Australia?
Yeah, there was a couple of people who did that.
Yeah, that's too much. If you had Rune 5th, maybe even I did, I can't remember. No, I think I had Rune 6th. But if you had Rune 5th, it was fine. But in the top 4, no, that was too much.
Yeah, I think there was a couple of people I talked to who were like, yeah, they were putting Rune ahead. I was like, really? At that, and I'm not saying it's never, but yeah, Holger Rune is in a questionable place right now.
And so is his train, yes.
Yeah, we'll see where it is. Like maybe the train's kind of has reached a hill right now. He's playing Rotterdam next, right?
Oh, we'll see, but
we'll see.
Yeah, I think so.
That's the plan.
Is that this week?
No, that's next week.
Okay. I got nervous for a second.
No. We're all about. There's only one topic that matters this week, Miles. But before we get to that, obviously we talked about Bublik. It was the only good news story for Kazakhstan because in the Davis Cup, Kazakhstan narrowly lost to Argentina. Damien, do you want to tell us about that?
I mean, in a way, that's not a good story for them. But at the same time, that would have been upset of the weekend. Like that would have been absolutely unthinkable for them to win 3 points there. Without Bublik, with Shevchenko still unable to compete, of course, there's going to be like a waiting time. They go to Argentina, they go to Rosario, they play on clay away. And yeah, I mean, Timofey Skatov peaks out of his mind. He beats both Echeverry and Cerundolo. There's a lot of talk in regards to whether Echeverry should have played because apparently he was like, I don't know, fatigued or whatever. Well, I don't know if fatigued is the right word, but maybe he was like, I don't know, just not ready physically 100%. But anyway, there was a lot of talk about that. Of course, in the 4th rubber on Sunday, Skatov manages to defeat Fran Cerundolo. Again, a great win. He just bullies him off the ground, honestly, besides the serve. And then you have to play the final rubber where you have Sebastian Baez stepping in instead of Edge. And of course, Dimitri Popko, like once again, kind of has no chance. But then again, Popko over the years, I think he's shown that with all his problems, including the fixing, but also the mental stuff, he actually is a damn good tennis player when he tries. And yeah, that was just an insane match with all that sort of ridiculous atmosphere that was there in Rosario, of course. Popko served for the match. Popko also had 2 match points at 6-4 in the tiebreak. And it was pretty crazy. Popko recently played a final in Buenos Aires as well of a challenger, and he lost to Gonzalo Bueno playing a horrible deciding set tiebreak. So it was kind of familiar territory for him. And I was expecting him to choke. He goes down 1-4 in that tiebreaker. And actually from that point onwards, like Baez cannot put a ball into the court for a few points. So I guess the credit still goes to the Argentinian because from 4-6 down, after literally just 5 horrific unforced errors in a row, he actually starts, like he keeps trusting his forehand and he suddenly punishes all these mid-court balls. Of course, Popko wasn't like too aggressive on these points, but again, that's something we're used to from him. But yeah, the atmosphere in that match was definitely insane. And just the upset would have been just ridiculous. The fact that they were able to win 3 points, because you do think that, I don't know, let's say Skatov can snatch one win, or something crazy might happen. Popko might beat one of these guys, or maybe the doubles can be won. But just to combine 3 points away on clay without Bublik, without Shevchenko, that kind of felt impossible for the Kazakh team. It was a bit of a shame, honestly, for me that this didn't happen, because that just would have been the story of the weekend, the upset of the weekend for sure. And in the end, of course, Baez really becomes the hero, who easily could have been, well, not the villain, but easily could have been one of the guys who, one of the perpetrators, and one of the players who actually made Argentina lose it. Because if he lost to Popko in that deciding rubber, like, that would have been a horrific loss for him. And he's defending that Cordoba title now. But all in all, I mean, he's going to take a lot of confidence out of it. And once it came to the crunch, and really came to the crunch, so match points down, he actually kept trusting that forehand despite misfiring 3 previous balls on it. So kudos to him. But that was one of the wildest runs, definitely.
Is Cerundolo still going to be with us? Is Cerundolo still going to have a good season? Because I'm getting some questions from his performances.
Which one?
I mean, Juan Manuel, no. Fran, probably, yeah. I mean, Fran is so up and down anyway. I think he's just going to combine, let's say, just randomly, he's going to win 5 matches here, 5 matches here. No, well, 5 matches maybe is a stretch, but 3-4 matches here, 3-4 matches here. I think he's going to be eventually fine. And by the way, to Ghosty's question, Shevchenko will have to wait, yes. I don't know when exactly he gained his citizenship, and I think it's 2 years after that. There are some exemptions to be made. So maybe the ITF will give him an exemption. That I cannot really know. But yeah, that will depend. If there's no exemptions, it will depend on when he gains citizenship. And from that point, he has to wait 2 years before being eligible for Davis Cup for Kazakhstan.
How is he able to play for Kazakhstan? Because I saw him today. He's playing under the flag at Marseille. But how is he able to play without actually being a citizen?
I mean, he is right now. We know that he's a citizen, but I don't know when he started being one. Because he started representing Kazakhstan in Montpellier. But is that the point where he becomes a citizen, or was that 6 months earlier? I have no clue.
Gotcha. I get what you mean.
This was in the works for a while. The first real info that we had about this was maybe late 2022. I know that in September, actually, Shevchenko told me that's very soon. It's going to happen very shortly. So maybe then he was already a citizen. I'm not really sure. But certainly, at least, in the rules, it says that you have to be a citizen of said country for 2 years in order to play Davis Cup for them. So that's going to be, or there are some exemptions as well.
I bet if he starts winning, it's going to make an exemption.
I don't know. I mean, maybe the ITF could grant him one because, it's a very different situation than usual. It's not really, maybe also money-wise, it's a decision, a financially backed decision. But mostly it's just to escape the negative consequences of the Russian nationality. So I think that could be looked at maybe like a bit of a cause for that exemption. I don't know. I mean, he was not that Russian to begin with, not living there since he was 10, but I don't know. Maybe the ITF is going to look at it like that. But anyway, I mean, we'll see.
If he starts winning and suddenly becomes a top 10 player winning a Masters 1000s, he'll find his way to Davis Cup, I'm sure.
Yeah, but it depends on, how strict they are with the rules and, how heavy you can lobby the ITF for it. So obviously, we're talking about the absence of Bublik and Shevchenko probably didn't help Kazakhstan. Popko did his best to put them into the World Group Finals. Party really wants Jethro on this podcast because, I think he would just be overjoyed with seeing a clutch Sebastian Baez win. But yeah, that seems to be, we've talked about sort of, missed opportunity for Kazakhstan. How big an opportunity have we got for Argentina in the finals?
I mean, the conditions don't really suit them, right? But they do have a world group type of team. I mean, for sure. Of course, Argentina is very strong. I mean, Fran Cerundolo can play indoors. Echeverry right now can play hard courts indoors. Baez from time to time even, right? They do have very strong doubles still. So, yeah.
So they qualified to get to the World Group stage way later in the year in like post US
September.
Open. Okay,
Yes.
got it.
Yeah, post
Okay.
US Open. Yeah, post US Open. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're not going to get any Davis Cup World Group action until September.
And then
Yeah,
there's the
we're
finals
essentially
in
not gonna get
November,
any
right?
Davis Cup action below, let's say, World Group 1, World Group 2. They all restart in September. The only action until then is like some fourth, third group, very random teams basically. But now the Davis Cup works like that. Yeah,
And what is it in November? Like with Yannick Sinner and
the
Italy won?
finals, the last 8.
The last
In
8.
in
Okay.
September they play the group stage now.
How many countries are in that?
16.
Thought so. Okay.
16. Yeah. So the 16 countries participating in the World Group are Italy, because they're defending champions. Australia is the finalist from last year. Great Britain has a wild card. Spain has a wild card due to being the hosts. We've got Argentina are participating, as are Belgium, Brazil, Canada, Chile, Czech Republic, Finland, France, Germany, the Netherlands, the United States, and shock, Slovakia, who beat Serbia 4-0. Somewhat
Shock.
unexpectedly.
I don't know if it's a shock. It maybe it's a shock that they won 3-0, but overall that they won. One thing that we have to say here: the Jakub Bobro Player of the Week, which has been given out sort of like irregularly. This time we gave it to the whole Slovakian team, which you can see right now on the screen. Of course, the main sort of stars being Lukas Klein, Igor Zelenay, and Alex Molchan, the guys who actually played, and the guys, the two ones on the left here, and also Alex Molchan, of course, holding the flag on the right. But Lukas Klein being the main sort of force behind this. Such an awesome start to his year. He was outplaying Zverev for 4.5 hours at the Australian Open in the second round. And now he also beats Kecmanovic here. Indoor clay is actually pretty good for him. I'm not really sure why the Serbian team went for it, but I guess having Lajovic on, they didn't want to go for hard courts. But indoor clay definitely does not hold off Klein at all. Sometimes it even helps his forehand, which can be a bit wonky when it's like super fast. And I think he especially played so well against Kecmanovic, and then as well with Igor Zelena in the doubles. Zelena is like almost retired by now. He has 46 challenger doubles titles. He's an absolute legend, but right now he just plays very sporadically. This year, I think he's only played one doubles event. It was actually an ITF along with Łukasz Pokorny, who's also here on the photo. Pokorny played a dead rubber against Laszlo Djere, where Djere retired, but of course by then it didn't matter. And Alex Molchan as well, winning a match against Dusan Lajovic. Not a great sort of patch for him recently, but Ghosty will be very delighted about it because he's been a big fan. Oh yeah, and he's already Alex Molchan. He's been a big fan of Alex Molchan since the match against Grigor Dimitrov at the US Open. Molchan beat Lajovic from a set down, so he was also, of course, key here. So the story was that they won 3-0 more so than they actually won. But certainly Slovakia has a very dangerous team, and especially if Klein can keep performing as he has been so far in September, he can be an absolute force for them. Of course, it's that different format in the group stage as well, right? It's not a best of 5, so he's only going to be able to play, well, one singles, one doubles tops. They could use having a better doubles team because Zelenay really is on the verge of retirement. But if Klein and Molchan find a season where they are at their peak of their powers, they could be absolutely very dangerous also in that group stage or even in the quarterfinals. Molchan has had some big indoor results in the past as well, so it is possible. It's just that, of course, right now theoretically both these guys are outside the top 100. Well, theoretically, practically they are, but yeah, it doesn't have to be, let's say, the ceiling of theirs. And that was a big story. And of course, we gave that to them, the Jakub Bobro Player of the Week award, because if someone doesn't know, our late friend Jakub was from Slovakia and would have surely enjoyed that. We actually, on the Challenger podcast, we always talked about the Slovakian Davis Cup match and also the Polish Davis Cup match, just randomly, even though it wasn't really relevant. I remember we always talked about that, and even last time on the show, I actually mentioned the Davis Cup team for Slovakia. So that was definitely quite a story that they were able to dominate Serbia like that.
Yeah, it was. And, okay, shock may be a strong word, but you're right. On paper, Serbia had the stronger team. They have not much. Kecmanovic and Jere are both top 50 players, right?
Yeah, Jared didn't play though, but like he only played the dead rubber. I mean, clearly wasn't feeling.
Oh yeah,
I think
well, okay, Lajovic as well has got some clay court pedigree in his career. Like,
oh yeah,
he's got some good results on clay.
ATP
Obviously
1000
qualifiers
final.
with Djokovic. At one point, okay, it wasn't Djokovic's best, but still winning against Djokovic. Kecmanovic, we know when he's on is good. So I am with Ghosty on the Molchan train. I do think he's a decent player on his week. Obviously, that fight set with Grigor Dimitrov he had at the US Open, and was it Dimitrov? And he's been to 3 ATP Tour finals. Like, I think he definitely had opportunity to make things difficult in the rubbies he was playing for his opponents. But obviously, maybe we've been sleeping on Klein a bit, especially given how he pushed Zverev and could have won that match in Australia that they played. Maybe a lot of people like me thought, I certainly thought that it was a one-off peak, but hey, maybe we're going to see more exciting things from Lucas Klein this year.
I hope so. I mean, last year he had such an amazing top 100 opportunity because he was defending 23 points until May, and he like completely blew it. I think he really get to himself. And now that he's not that close, he's playing freely again. And if he doesn't lose the belief, I think he's gonna make it. I am definitely enjoying this start to the season from him because suddenly everyone is like on board of the Klein train. And for the past 2 years, it was mostly me just sitting there and like, come on guys, no, he's better than this, but of course, yeah, I don't know how long this is going to last. He's definitely a player who can get like hot and cold, and I think he has a top 100 peak. I don't think he's going to spend like his whole career in it. I do think he has a top 100 peak though. I am hoping for it. And yeah, that match against Zverev. So one thing that maybe has been even pissing me off actually was that on Twitter most of the reactions would be, "Oh yeah, Zverev usually losing sets in the first rounds of a slam." I mean, yeah, if you watched that match and you didn't see what was happening there, and that, well, Zverev kind of didn't have anything to say for 4.5 hours, could only defend and serve well, then it's a problem with you, not with the actual game, not with the actual sport, not with the actual players. It wasn't like the forefront against Nori, where Zverev was just tentative and giving him the ball. He kind of was, dominated for 4.5 hours, which of course he ended up winning the match, and he did it in in style. Definitely played at his best in the most important moments. But yeah, that was a very good showing of what Klein can do against basically anyone when he's playing like this, when he has so much fire in it. So I hope he doesn't lose it this year.
I hope so too, because it'd be a great story of like, yeah, something starting off. Speaking of things starting off, the Dallas Open is getting underway. I don't know, has the main draw started yet? Like officially, I know that we've still been having qualies, but I don't know whether.
I believe the first main draw match of the tournament starts in their evening session later on today.
It's like 30 minutes, more or less. Yeah.
Minutes time. Okay. So yeah, Miles, obviously you are going to be our man on the ground in Dallas.
Yes, I am.
Which is exciting. I loved the preview that was made, especially as, despite my age, I got the reference. Yeah, Miles, talk to me about your thoughts ahead of the Dallas Open. And
can I get a new thumbnail for that one? I hate what my mouth is doing. The producer, I gotta talk to the producer about that one. My thoughts about the Dallas Open. I am excited to go. I think there is a lot of talent, especially if you're an American tennis fan, that's going to be on display there. The draw shaked out pretty well, I think, for all of them to kind of get some matches under their belt and showcase that. But I'm excited. I'm excited to be the man on the ground for talking tennis, and hopefully we get some good content and information out of these players. And we get a good winner or a good story like we got last year with Wu Yibing, who's unfortunately not even in the draw. So I noticed that when the draw came out this weekend, I didn't see his name. So he's still on the sidelines with injury. But the names that are in the draw are looking good, and I'm excited about it.
Yeah, should be good. So I think also, I mean, if you're an American tennis fan, pretty much all the top American men are there. I think there's only like one or two exceptions.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically all the American guys have have gone to sort of warm up ahead of trying to get some big results in Indian Wells and Miami.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think it's a good opportunity for any sports fans, not just tennis fans, to go and check out the best that the US can produce, and similarly also Australia, because for some reason Australia seems to have sent half their players to this one event. It's like the old Davis Cup days where literally the final was always the US versus Australia.
I think
For the
the Australian men like coming to the States because there's a couple of tournaments they do that at. They definitely do it here and also in Atlanta, and then the Newport, Rhode Island tournament, and then Winston-Salem. There's usually a good representation of Australian flags. But as far as the US flags, there's Francis Tiafoe. He's the number 1 seed. He's definitely going to be he's highest billing of the tournament on the men's side. Then right after him is number 2 seed Tommy Paul, also an American. And then the 3rd seed is Ben Shelton, who's had a breakthrough in 2023. So, yeah. And also Chris Eubanks, he's seeded 5. And then there's also, he's not American, but Adrian Manarino is in there, and he's coming off the best season of his career. So there's a lot of good places to look in the draw and for the tournament.
And he's part of that group of 4 players who are dominating the ATP Tour right now: Sinner, Bublik, Djokovic, and Manarino. With the ban was asking about Kudla. Kudla is still playing 3rd set now against Moreno de Alboran. Yeah, I'm looking at this draw in Dallas, and I'm like wondering, what am I going to watch here? And if Mickelson plays Tiafoe in the 2nd round, that's going to be
that could be interesting. Chris Eubanks went pretty big on an ATP video. Chris Eubanks said that he believes Alex Mickelson is going to have a great breakthrough year or something along those lines. And I haven't watched enough of him to kind of make that determination one way or the other, but that'll be a good opportunity to do so if he comes up against Francis Tiafoe. So
yeah, I think he's like 50-50 against Francis, honestly, right now. I mean, Francis is...
You think he's 50-50? Oh gosh, yeah. Francis, we gotta do better, Francis.
he's so mediocre at the moment. But yeah, otherwise, I don't know. I mean, Kepfer Kovacevic, that's a very good one. They've played like a lot of times over the past couple of years. If Ethan Quinn can do something against Hijikata, that would be interesting. I mean, Ethan just made the final in Cleveland. He's probably going to get like a Wednesday start because it's an indoor event, so he should be rested up. We know Rinky is like a bit of a runner mostly. Like he kind of has his racket in his hand and runs. So there is a possibility, I think, for Ethan to do something there against Rinky for sure. And also Steve Johnson qualified today, which is quite exciting, actually. Of course, right now he just plays such a limited schedule and only really plays events close to his home. But yeah, I mean, last year he actually won 2 challengers and was like much better than in the previous campaigns. So I would not be surprised with like a miracle Steve Johnson run here. However, that will of course be very draw dependent as well. We still don't have where the qualifiers will land because a couple of matches are still going on. There's also a lucky loser spot already opened up. That lucky loser will face Chris Eubanks.
Also in the draw,
so that was that who was in the draw? Krunic? No, I think that's a WTA player.
Yeah,
Vukic.
Alexander Krunic, yeah, is a WTA player indeed. But Vukic Eubanks, yeah, they were supposed to play for like the umpteenth time.
Yeah, they have an interesting head-to-head.
Last year they played like 4 times, I think twice in Delray Beach because they played in the final qualification in the first round. But now Eubanks, well, I said something that wasn't technically right when I said that Eubanks is going to play a qualifier, a lucky loser. He's going to play either a qualifier or lucky loser. But yeah, that's where the lucky loser spot opened up with Vukic withdrawing. Yes,
and I'm sure the lucky loser spot's going to go to Tans Atmani. I don't know how to pronounce that name.
It's possible.
He looked pretty good against Medvedev. Ottman, I think they were saying Ottman, Terrence Ottman. Maybe that's the English pronunciation, and I'm completely butchering it.
Like the E should be more or less silent in French. The last vowels are very often, or not even vowels actually, just the last sounds are very often silent. So probably it is Terence Ottman, but it has to be either him basically right now, or I think the loser of, well, depends. It could be Nava, or it could be then Moreno, Alboran, or Kudla if Nava wins. It's tricky, but basically he has a 50% of chance of getting in if there is still only one lucky loser spot open by the time the qualifying
I
finishes.
just assumed he was going to get in because he was the top seed.
No, that's not how it works, because that would just lead to top seeds in final rounds of qualifying throwing their matches. That's actually a Justin Gimelstob thing. The former coach of John Isner, he actually managed to get that change because he did that at Wimbledon in the 2000s. He just literally retired after like 1 or 2 games in his final qualifying round. Then he made the main draw, and he won a few rounds as well. So basically, after that, they decided to change it.
No comment. I have comments, but I'm going to choose to say no comment. I do have a question though, Damien. There's two American men that I've seen a little bit of, and one that I haven't seen, but I've seen his name talked about, and they're playing in Dallas. The first one I'll ask you about is Zachary Zvida of the U.S. He takes on James Duckworth in the first round. Do you know anything about Zvida's game? I know he's like, what, 21, 22. He was kind of sort of in contention on the lower end for the next gen finals, I believe.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, actually, yeah, he was pretty close. Yeah, he's a fun beast. I mean, I really don't know what to think about him. I think he has like a pretty Team Smichek type of game, you know. It's never going to be like a full-on ATP Tour, let's say top 20-ish player, but he will get into the top 100 at some point. However, I don't know if I want to see it. Like, he is just so passive, you know. He has some pretty decent shots defensively, for sure. Like, the shot making potential is there on the defense. The backhand down the line is a bit of a trademark, but his forehand especially gets so pushy. And like when he's playing just maybe with a little less motivation, a little less focus, he can lose to like straight up anyone because people can crash that second serve. Of course, at the Australian Open qualifying this year, for example, he managed to beat Alexander Blocks in the first round, and you're like, okay, yeah, so he's actually playing very well. He might get through, and then he loses to Omar Jasika because he simply runs into someone who doesn't pressure him, and he has to create something himself, and it's really weird. I used to say this about Svida because he actually played the US Open twice with a wild card because he won Kalamazoo twice, the boys national championships in the States. And I used to say, he also did well, by the way, like 5 sets against Lorenzi. That's a legendary match a few years ago, 4.5 hours, I think. But I used to say that when he showed up, when he was like 16, he had a very mature game for his age. But then it never really developed. I mean, for like the next 3 or 4 years, he still had that same mature game for 16, but it wasn't as mature for 20. Of course, last year was a big step up. He won like 3 challengers, but it was in the States, you know, the fields weren't that amazing. Yeah, I do have a lot of reservations. Now, can he beat Duckworth? I mean, this is pretty much his level, right? So yeah, sure. I mean, he doesn't have to lose that much. But even recently, some of the losses that he's taken, especially the Indian Wells final against Blaise Bicknell, that was one of the most embarrassing performances I've ever seen in my life. Like, really, he must have gone off the court thinking, what have I done? He was extra pushy on the forehand. He was just throwing everything out anyway for some reason, and the second serve was just ripped to shreds. Like, to me, he's not different to, that also probably doesn't tell you that much, but he's not that different to like Dalibor Szczina, for example. Dalibor Szczina qualified in Montpellier last week, but to me, they're pretty similar, like pretty decent hands, but the second serve is so awful that like from time to time they're gonna make a very aggressive player just pay for their mistakes, you know. Be so good, be varied on the defense as well to really make them miss a lot of the time. However, when they face someone where they have to inject pace and they have to like create opportunities for themselves, it's just such a mess. And these styles, I think, just have been pretty tough to, you know, get consecutive wins with. like on the ATP tour as well against this caliber. And I think he will probably break the top 100 at some point. But yeah, I'm not too excited about this Fighters game. No.
What about Alexander Kovacevic, somebody that I've seen a little bit of? I think he got a win over Cam Norrie in Los Cabos last year
Los
before the
Cabos,
USA.
yeah.
That's one of the matches that stand out to me. Does he have a top 50 or so game? Maybe, possibly.
He could. I do think he could. Of course. I think last year was such a weird season for him as well because he didn't win. He didn't win a match for 3 months on clay and grass, but at the same time he won 4 challengers, so he was very close. Of course, now he actually breaks the top 100 with the Australian Open run, which was just qualifying and winning a match, but that was enough. But yeah, I think over the years he has had a lot of good development. He was always one of my favorite Americans going out of college because he would just show up at the challenger, make a semi or something. But he's done a lot of very interesting development in that. At first you would think just, okay, this is a guy with a pretty big serve. Actually, he developed it too, but also just, yeah, an all-out attacker, great forehand. Backhand is a one-hander, and like most of the time it would be a weakness. But actually, a lot of big wins he's had recently, he's like slowing things down. He's playing very intelligently on that backhand side and slicing, and actually just maybe growing as a match player, understanding more of what he has to do. And actually a ton of matches that he's won, a ton of important matches recently, even a lot of these challenger finals last year against Borges in Shenzhen, against Clear Jr. in Temuco, against Yibing Wu as well, that one in Cleveland that I already mentioned today. He actually won them by like really turning that weakness of his into a proper strength. The players were targeting that one-hander, just hoping for errors. And it was actually much better than sort of you'd think, because he was even bringing them forward with the short slices, or just slowing things down and eventually getting some errors. So he has definitely sort of changed up his game over the years. But ultimately, I think he's going to be a pretty interesting ATP Tour player. Probably not a top guy, but yeah, I think top 50 potential is pretty solid for Kova. The problem for him, I guess, sort of now, just in the near future, is that he's defending 2 challenger titles now. I think maybe one has already dropped, actually. But as I said, he didn't win a match for 3 months last year. So I think there's clearly going to be a lot of opportunities to cover that as well, especially if he goes for like a different different scheduling this time, because last year he went like very heavy on the clay. And I guess I understand the idea, because he was just trying to sort of think for the future, right? That I have to get some clay experience, but not winning a single match, that was a bit painful, of course. And then eventually, I think it did sort of leave a bit of a stain on the rest of his season as well, and that his confidence wasn't as high. But maybe if he goes to like South Korea right now in April, if he plays that swing, that could be pretty huge for him. And maybe he actually farms up points here, or maybe he goes deep in Dallas. But I do think that first match against Dominik Koepfer is actually like very tough. Koepfer, is just both a gritty competitor, but at the same time that lefty, sort of the return skills that he has. Yeah, Koepfer is just a bit of a nightmare to play. So I don't know if Kova will beat him. I think he's like 1-2 in the head-to-head against him. But Kovacevic has been a lot of fun to sort of watch him grow over the years. And as I said, even though he was definitely one of my favorite players when he was still in college, and I was always saying that, I really want to see what Kovacevic does when he graduates. But all in all, he now plays a very different game than back then, and he's still very successful with it. And he's been a lot of fun to just watch develop.
Brilliant. Well, that's the that's Dallas Open. Lots of exciting, big name American talent, up and coming American talent. Another name you could throw in the mix is 19-year-old Ethan Quinn, who's got a wild card into the main draw. Obviously, we'll see who comes qualifying. Tennis Sandgren's just qualified as well. Former thorn in Roger Federer's side, and probably a few other people's sides as well. That's so it's fairly. It looks like it's basically going to be most likely an American player, an Australian player, a French player, or maybe a Japanese player who wins it.
All are fine with me. I'll be happy to report on any of it.
Before I, but yeah. So you're being very neutral, Miles, and you're not going to be playing favourites this time. Maybe
like
after the tournament. After the tournament, we can tell you how you really feel.
Something like that.
You will be on Twitter, but you won't be on the actual stuff.
We know which two players you'll be excited for. So
well, I know one, but the other. Oh, okay.
There's a couple. There's a couple actually. There's
no,
more
actually,
than one.
I don't know which one you mean. I mean, definitely Tiafoe, but
we'll
the other one, I don't know which one.
I don't know if I'm excited for Tiafoe anymore, Damien. You just called it mediocre 15 minutes ago.
I mean, mediocre for his standards, you know.
Okay, fair, yeah.
Fair enough, overall. Yeah. I was just saying that for his standards, he's very mediocre right now. And to me, that's not far removed from Alex Michelsen level right now. But Nick Carter, tell me, which second player did you, what are you thinking of?
I mean, so the two players I was thinking of were Tiafoe and Shelton.
Mm-hmm. Shelton, okay.
Yeah, I think I'm definitely going to be set for both of their matches on whenever they happen. Hopefully Wednesday or Thursday. I get there Wednesday evening, so we'll see. And then yeah, I'm anybody's matches I'll be thrilled to watch. But yeah, those two I'm rooting because it could potentially be a final. I think that'd be a fun watch. Their US Open
I would love to see a Tiafoe versus Shelton final.
Yeah, Ghosty, it's not tennis Sangren. Sorry to disappoint you.
Well, I think we're gonna have a great time in Dallas, and the great thing about this week in the ATP Tour is there's a couple of other 250s happening at the same time, which will keep us occupied in other time zones as well. Well, one of them's going to be in a similar time zone, I think. So I guess the first one, let's talk about Cordoba because that's going to be fairly quick. Probably going to be won by an Argentine. Looking at the draw, Cerundolo was the top seed, then Baez, then Echeverry. So that Argentinian Davis Cup team riding high are going to be using that momentum to eventually crash into each other to try.
Yeah, but then again, these two, can they be riding high? I mean, they both lost to Skatov and they almost I don't know if they will be riding high, but yeah, Baez the defending
maybe just Baez.
Yeah, Baez the defending champ. I think he's gonna, especially if Delian beats Sabovils right now, like that would really open up the draw for Sebastian Baez, and maybe that's an option for him. I am very excited to see how Comesaña and Navone do. Of course, they were like one of the main stars of the Challenger Tour in South America last year. Navone winning 5 titles. I think especially Navone, if he can beat Carballes Baena, he would then have a rematch of a recent Buenos Aires final against Bagnis, but that would be like, I think Navone could absolutely go on a run. And I think Comesaña now faces Tirante, who's a lucky loser. The possibilities are endless, really. Diaz Acosta as well, of course, had such a big rise last year, and in the Golden Swing, he like still didn't amass any points despite going for like 3.5 hours against Nori. So he has a lot to gain as well. There's a lot of again, Argentinians, but I think
Diego Schwartzman could have an Indian summer run.
Yeah, no.
No? Okay. I'm acting on Jethro's behalf.
He could, but
I'd like to see it. I'm tired of seeing Diego Schwartzman's name just kind of loss after loss after loss. He's a good enough player to get it together, I think, one of these days.
I would end the sentence after I'm tired of seeing Diego Schwartzman's name. Because I am, like, literally I am. I don't understand his approach. I don't understand why he didn't like look for more match rhythm somewhere, didn't play, let's say, a South American Challenger at the end of the year. Brasilia and Temuco, I mean, points were lying on the floor there really with how weak the fields were and like full of clay quarters despite these events being on hard. If he wanted to play on hard, if he wanted to play on clay, a lot of options as well. I don't really get it. I think he's kind of going through the motions in a way. Like he's desperate to stick around the big stage, and he's not really been good enough. Obviously, he can wake up, and I'm a little surprised even that match against Buruchaga is like sort of priced so closely. This is definitely a good opportunity for him to grab a win, but if he doesn't, like, it's a bit of a do or die match, honestly.
Okay, so very high stakes match for Diego Schwartzman and his fans. Before we move on to the last ATP 250, what do you think of Elna's comment that Munar's got a chance of a run in Cordoba? He's just won his opening match. He's going to play Cerundolo in round 1.
He plays Fran Cerundolo if he can upset him. Sure. Why not? I mean, Fran Cerundolo, as we said, he lost to Skatov. He is so up and down. Even last year in the Golden Swing, I remember him sort of struggling at first to play himself into form a little bit. Of course, then he again has a ridiculous run in Miami somehow. So yeah, I mean, I never really expect too much consistency from France. So it's possible. I think Munar has a very real shot at upsetting him. Yeah.
And the last 250 is in Marseille, which has some decent names in the field. It's got Hubert Hurkacz, the top seed, Grigor Dimitrov is the second seed, Khachanov is third. You've got Umber, Davidovich Fokina, Musetti, Ogier Aliassime and Lehechka are the top 8. You've got, I'm literally looking at the draw right now, Andy Murray taking part, for those of you who are fans, Denis Shapovalov, we mentioned
only
earlier.
For one match, so...
Yeah, I think you and I have actually predicted the same thing happen against Mashak.
Mahach,
whatever.
No, because when you say it like this, it sounds like Kamil Mashak. I don't know. John says it the same way, actually. But never mind.
Because of the way it's spelled.
It's not similarly spelled, but anyway, yeah. Like Mahach is probably the correct pronunciation, but honestly, I say Mahach too. Anyway, what were you saying, that we are predicting the same thing?
I think we're both predicting Mahach to win that match.
Oh, that we're both predicting.
I'd like to see Andy Murray win because the next opponent is Lorenzo Musetti, just for fun.
Honestly, Mahach against Musetti is more fun to me.
Okay, fair enough too. Fair enough.
But both matches can be pretty good. I mean, I don't know. Andy doesn't really spike you with confidence at the moment. Of course, he's still like technically winless for the year as well. And yeah, I mean, tough times coming up for him soon, because honestly, with that Doha final, if he drops it without getting any wins, then he kind of has only
challenger. But those challenger points need to be defended in some way too, right? Because those are going to fall off.
Yeah, sure. I mean, he's going to defend them on grass probably, but that clay 175 that he won, that's not a given.
Eek. Do you think it's a given that Felix Auger-Aliassime and Zhang Jijin win their first round matches for a second round clash? Because I'd like to see that.
Zhang plays Alexander Miller, right?
Yeah.
That's not a given.
And Felix
Zhang
plays Quentin
Sebastian Domingo over the weekend in China versus Slovenia. Zhang lost to Sebastian Domingo, who's a pretty solid college player, but like in the ATP rankings, he's 107, I think, right now. So that was a pretty wild upset. Zhang can kind of lose to anyone. And I think he's had matches against Miller as well that were pretty tough for him. I don't think that's a given at all. And who is Felix playing?
He plays Quentin Halys.
Oh, yeah, that would be a pretty big...
Quentin Halys, actually. I think that's
Halys, because the H is silent in French most of the time. But yeah, Quentin Halys. And yeah, I don't know if that's a given. I mean, Halys has been off for a while. He, of course, has a lot of indoor potential with that ballsy play style and a huge serve. I think over the weekend he played Davis Cup, France.
He did. I saw that
Chinese
randomly.
Taipei, right?
Yeah.
France against Taiwan, and he beat who did he beat? Manarino played Tunglin Wu, and Alice must have played no, it wasn't Yu Su, I don't think. Oh, it was Chun Sin Seng, I think. So it wasn't a big win, definitely not. But I'm excited to see that match. I mean, Alice always has a shot against anyone really for an upset. It's gonna be a serve fest, so
bring it on.
I found an American name that isn't playing Dallas. Sebi Korda.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Cressy as well, right?
Cressy, yes, but I was going for like the bigger name.
Never mind.
Cressy has 6 letters and Korda has 5. Hopefully not.
The one who more people have made fuss about Sebi Korda than Maxime Cressy.
That is true.
He's going to be dangerous indoors. Don't get me wrong.
Cressy is defending a final. It's actually a pretty big story, because last year, of course, he reached the final in Montpellier, then does nothing for the rest of the year, maybe outside of the Rennes title.
But those ranking points just fell off, didn't they?
They're going to fall off because Montpellier was held in a different week. Marseille was held in a very different week, like 2 or 3 weeks later from here. And Montpellier was held because last year, the thing is that last year, during Davis Cup, there were no 250s. And that's generally been how they want to do it. There's no 250s during Davis Cup, and now there is. Montpellier was during Davis Cup, so that's why there's a switch, and also Marseille is completely switched around. But yeah, Montpellier is dropping this week for Cressy. Actually, it's not that big a hit for him. Like, it's about a 170-ish ranking, which might seem horrible, but honestly, there were a lot of moments last year when he was about 130. So it's not that big a deal to me. I mean, he still is guaranteed to play like most challengers. 95% challengers, let's say, maybe outside of the 175s. But he actually seems to be like inspired a little bit. I don't know. I mean, he qualified with 2 very solid wins. Who was it? Martin Dam definitely today, and yesterday it was Jorda Sanchez. I think he didn't even get to a tiebreak with them. Maybe.
He's got Rinderknecht in round 1.
That's fun. I think they also played a few times. Yeah.
That'll be a fast match. But that court is playing slowly, according to Roberto Batista Agut, who I caught some of his match against Gasquet today. And I think it should be an absolute crime to have an indoor hard court play slow. That should be a crime.
But that's the ATP Tour always right now, right?
Well, everyone should get locked up then.
There's no ATP Tour indoor hard fast events anymore other than like ATP Finals, Basel maybe. Most indoor hards are terribly slow. I think Marius Kopil tweeted about it last year as well, saying something that he was just like watching maybe Stockholm or something like that. And no, Stockholm is pretty fast, but like, he was watching some event, and basically he was like complaining about it. Obviously he would like a faster surface, but yeah, I do. But Rinderknecht Cressy, that's a fun one actually. I didn't know who Cressy was going to play, but I think in 2020, early 2020, they played 2 challenger finals in Canada, and they were both very entertaining. Like I don't think it was back-to-back weeks, but maybe like a week of a break. So that's pretty fun. But yeah, maybe Cressy has some magic left in him for this week. Korda, I wasn't even looking at the draw too much, honestly. Just the qualifying is what I'm familiar with.
Yeah, Korda's got Hugo Grenier in round 1, who's a qualifier. Winner plays Dimitrov.
Do you remember last year in Madrid, Hugo Grenier beat Sebastian Korda?
Probably going to happen. Well, maybe will happen again.
That was Korda's first match since the Australian Open, right? That was Korda's first match since the Australian Open then. And I think that played a part. Let's just say that. But Grenier today had a crazy comeback against Zapieri from 3-6, 3-5 down, and he actually won that match and qualified, yeah.
All right, you are now up to date with everything ATP, and we will be very up to date with everything from Dallas, because Miles will bring you as much as he possibly can from Wednesday onwards. Keep an eye on everything else that's going to come from the channel. Keep an eye on any live streams we kind of put out there. Damien, thanks for coming on, rushing on from Germany despite being sick. Go and take on as many vitamins as you can and be well. Miles, look after yourself. We need you fresh for Dallas. And thanks all of you for joining. ATP Weekly will be back. You'll be glad to hear, probably without me at the helm this time.
I'm going to be glad about that. I won't.
I mean, let's face it, clearly today I was out of my depth because I'm the WTA guy, and you can catch me on WTA Weekly coming up this weekend, where I saw a lot of Emma Raducanu chat. More than willing to chat about Emma with you lot on that show when we see what happens in Abu Dhabi. And I'm sure Damien, hopefully Mario, get well soon, Mario, will be doing ATP Weekly to look at the fallout of what happened in Dallas and Montpellier and Cordoba and start looking ahead to Rotterdam and the 500s coming back. Thanks, guys, for coming on. Thanks you all for watching. Take care and keep talking tennis.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.